Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. So glad you guys could join us once again. For those tuning in on the simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X, we're glad you all can be with us. Going to go ahead and bring in our friends over on IG so they can be a part of our conversation as well. Last but certainly not least, going to connect with Amazon. I'm really excited about this next guest. I was saying to her, I had a chance to be able to speak with her on our radio show, Conversations Live, with her book, The Thread Collectors. But now we're excited about being able to have her on with her brand new book here on Amazon Live for you guys to be able to see her and find out about the book. And we're now live on Amazon Live with Cyrus Webb Presents. If you guys are new to us on Amazon, welcome. Make sure you guys hit that follow button either here in this corner or down below. You also will see the newest book by our next guest. Excited to welcome back author Alyson Richman to our broadcast today. Her new book, as you guys can see here, is called The Missing Pages. For you guys joining us on Amazon, I'm going to highlight the Kindle edition for you guys. You can get for $9.99, or you can get the print edition for $18.99. And we're going to talk to Alyson not only about her love of history that definitely weaves into this book, but also what it's been like for her to take something that a lot of people talk about, that being the Titanic, to make a great connection with books and also a great mystery as well. Alyson, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me back on your show, Cyrus. It's always a pleasure.
No, I appreciate that. So, as I mentioned, history is one of those things that really is the through line. It seems like, Alyson, for you when it comes to these stories. But I can say from now reading, I think this is my third book of yours for me to read. That history is the connection, but then you bring us into these situations that are so relatable today. What has it been like for you, Alyson, to be able to take something that you love when it comes to history, but also bring your own storytelling to it too?
That's a great question. So I'm so glad that you touched upon my love of history, my love of research. I got into writing historical fiction because I think I'm a naturally curious person. So when I hear something in passing that has to do with history or a story, I immediately want to delve in and learn more. And so all of my novels, they kind of gestate after there's a question in my head that I don't know the answer to. And to be able to go into archival resources and learn more about history, to be able to try and put the pieces together about something and illuminate it to my readers without it feeling like a textbook or didactic in which you're really swept away in a story is a wonderful challenge for me. I think writing historical fiction, yes, you want to illuminate something that your readers might not have known prior to reading your novel, but you also want to tether them to emotional chords that resonate with them. And no matter whether you're writing about something that took place 50 years ago, 150 years ago, there are universal emotions like love and loss and the need to protect our children that people in today's time will always connect to. So it's really important, I think, when writing a book that there's an emotional connection and anchor with your reader when you are writing about something that took place a long time ago.
I love the way you said that, Alyson, because it reminded me of, I keep going back to the Thread Collector because that conversation in that book really resonated with me. I think because it goes to show how what can be a seemingly simple thing, like what you were able to have as part of the Thread Collectors, can really have such a big impact. That kind of carries over in The Missing Pages in a sense, because you have something, and we all who are book lovers appreciate the power and the importance of books that is not shared by everyone, but that's a totally different conversation. But this book really does kind of pull on that appreciation for the written word and for books, and for those like Harry, the character we've been meeting in the book, who really appreciates that. So what was kind of the genesis for you when it comes to the new book?
So, the new book, the genesis, really happened unexpectedly. My daughter was taking a tour of Harvard University by herself. She was doing a summer program in the Massachusetts area, and the coordinators of that program set up some of the students to have different tours in the universities in the regional area. And so when she was taking this tour by herself, the tour guide, meaning that I wasn't with her. She was with other prospective students. But the tour guide brought her to the steps of the Harry Elkins Widener Memorial Library at Harvard and shared with the students this incredible story about the library's namesake. He was a 27-year-old Harvard graduate who perished on the Titanic. He was a passionate book collector. He was, as I mentioned, only 27 years old. And the tour guide shared with the students that there was this legend surrounding him, that he had just gone to London to purchase this rare and precious book. And that when catastrophe hit the ship and there was this, mayhem to try and get on board the different lifeboats, he had been traveling with his parents, and his mother tried to, beseech him to get on the lifeboat with her. And he supposedly told his mother that he had to go back to his cabin to retrieve this rare book, and was never seen again. And the book was never found. And after his mother returned to America, in order to preserve his legacy, she created this beautiful library. And in the center of the library is a reconstruction of his office with his oak shelves. Many of the volumes of his book collection are on these shelves. His original desk and chairs are there. And to this day, in a stipulation of her behest, every week fresh flowers are put on the desk to conjure up the sensation that at any moment her son might come into this room and pull one of his books off of the bookshelves and sit down to read. So when my daughter shared this story to me, immediately I was intrigued. First of all, I had never heard of, a Gilded Age book collector who perished on the Titanic. I had no idea what book he had purchased. From an emotional level, in which we were talking about before, it instantly ignited something in my heart. Here you can see this scene between a mother and son, a mother desperate to save her son, and her son wanting very much to be a gentleman and do the right thing and stay behind with the rest of the men, and giving her this gift that he might just be going back to his cabin to get this book, and that he'll get the next lifeboat, even though we know that's not going to happen. So there was this emotional connection between mother and son, this way of seeing the story from two directions of mother and child, this sense of legacy in the building that this mother goes on to create this monument for him. But then also the question, which I, mentioned before, that I always want to research, which is, was there a book that was so precious to Harry that he actually might have gone back to his cabin to save? And that's when my research sort of began to find out what that book might have been, and if there was archival research about it.
Love that. And that's why I think the reader will get so immersed in this story, because one thing I can appreciate about your writing, Alyson, I'm not just saying this because I'm speaking with you, and that's that you seem to draw us into a time that maybe we don't know anything about. I'd never heard of him before, never heard the name, but you make us curious about these characters that you introduce us to, the situations they're in, but you also make them relatable. And just like you were just talking about with Harry, and we see it even with Violet, and Violet navigating her own world and circumstances, right? That we feel this connection with them. Do you think that's one of the reasons why readers do follow you from book to book, Alyson? Because you do bring them in with the story, but also the connection they feel with the characters.
Well, I certainly hope so. I think one of the things that's very important to me when I'm writing, and I hope when readers do feel they're picking up an Alyson Richman book, that they get this satisfaction with every novel I write, is that I come from a very artistic background. My mother is an artist. I originally wanted to be a painter myself. So creating the landscape of the backdrop of the storyline that I'm writing it's always very sensory rich for me. I really try and paint you a scene which you can close your eyes and imagine very clearly. You can smell the brine coming off the Atlantic when you're on, in the scenes of the Titanic. You can feel the coolness of the marble inside the library when you enter it and see it through Violet's eyes. There is an attention to the sense of atmosphere when writing any book, where I feel that you, as the writer, want to envelop your reader in a world in which they feel safe and they feel excited to learn within. So I hope that every novel that I write, I'm delivering that. I love doing it. I love describing my writing in the sense that the way a painter builds a canvas out brushstroke over time, I do it sentence over sentence, building upon it to create this, world in which you can learn when you get to the last page. So those are things I think about when I'm writing.
Yeah, I think too, as we see in the missing pages, and I want to say hello to you guys joining us over there on IG. Hello to you, The Real Lady Extreme, joining us from Ohio. Double Exposure Media Relations joining us from New Jersey. Appreciate you all being with us, and appreciate the hearts over there on YouTube as well. Let me reset real quick, Alyson, and say for those who are just tuning in, welcome. You're watching Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm excited to welcome author Alyson Richman to our broadcast today. Alyson celebrating her new book, The Missing Pages. You guys can see my copy here. I got an advanced copy, but you guys can get it here on Amazon, either the print edition or the Kindle edition as well. I've had a chance to interview Alyson before on the radio show here in Mississippi, but we're now having her on Amazon Live to talk to us about the new book. I want to go more into Violet for a second, Alyson, and talk about we'll talk around a couple of things. One is her own sense of longing for belonging, but also her own connection that she feels with Harry and wanting life to mean something. Talk to us about how Violet kind of came about, because as you were describing Harry, I think, you know what, so many people, men and women, would hope that their lives mean something, that someone appreciates them and that they have something to offer, like Harry seems to. How did Violet kind of come to you?
Mhm. Well, one of the things I forgot to mention is that I tell Harry's story from the voice of his ghost inside the library his mother built in his honor.
Yes.
And the storyline of Violet is that she is a young college student at Harvard who has suffered her own personal loss.
Mhm.
And she applies for a job within the library and becomes a page in the library. And for those of you listening, a page is someone who basically shepherds rare books within the collection to scholars who are doing research. So there's actually tunnels between two different libraries at Harvard, the Widener and the Houghton Reading Room. And she is in charge of getting those books in between that. And so she enters this job after suffering a tremendous personal loss, the loss of her boyfriend. And I wanted to sort of create her storyline in the sense that this space that Harry's mother built in order to help her own healing after the loss of him becomes a space also in modern day for a student who is also suffering this loss, and how our connections forged within this library through a mutual love of books. The way that Harry loved books is the same way that Violet loved books. I wanted there to be a parallel in their storylines, that both of their deaths, both her boyfriend's and Harry's, there's water involved. So there's like a theme of water within the novel. And what I really wanted to do is, excuse me, create this connection that when you're reading the book, that you see how grief is not linear and there's certain things that have to happen in time. I'm sorry, in order to promote healing.
Yeah. Yeah. As we were talking about in the beginning, Allison, as well, and you see that with Harry as well as, of course, with Violet, is that appreciation though, and the power of words, the power of books, and how they can, you know, kind of make us feel more whole. And I thought about, interestingly enough, myself growing up, the role that books played. You know, I was telling someone recently, my mom tells a story that for myself, part of my punishment would be having to go outside and play, because I just stay in my room and read, read, write, and draw.
Mhm.
Some things never change, so Allison. But it just really shows how the connection you feel with words. What was that like for you to have books almost as a character in this book?
That's such a good question.
Mhm.
So I'm so sorry that I'm coughing like
Oh,
this. I
no,
think
no, you're fine. You're fine.
it's a live interview, so it's really live with me coughing. Um, so books for me have always been an escape, and they've always been a place that I can transport myself when I am in a difficult situation or I want to lose myself.
Mhm.
I think that people, even now, we're seeing more people reading with books on the subway. And, I've noticed it with my reading friends that I think we're living in such like hairy times that falling into a book is a safe place. People don't even want to be on their phone because you can get lost in a book and you
Yeah.
can redirect your thoughts. And I wanted to show how that is timeless, whether it's Harry in the Gilded Age and this connection he has with both his mother and his grandfather through his love of books, and also with Ada, this book seller that he meets when he's in London as well.
Mhm.
And then you also see in modern times how Violet with her boyfriend, how Hugo and she comb the old bookstores and go to the poetry section of the Harvard bookstore. And that was the way I was when I was in college. So there's always this sense of bibliophiles and book lovers that we respect a book. We love falling into the pages. We love being transported by the author. And so this book is sort of like a love letter to book readers everywhere.
Yeah. And I love that, even as people talk about Harry in the modern time, about, basically seeing him as someone who really was there to make sure the written word was preserved and appreciated. I think that's such a great message. Not saying this book is about messages, but it's such a great message that I took away from the book, Allison. And that is, that we we live in an interesting time where words are not shown the dignity and respect they should, that books are not shown the dignity and respect that they should be. But this book reminds us of the preciousness of them, right? And what they mean for so many people, and why it's so important to make sure, as Harry's mom did, that that is kind of preserved. Talk to
Mhm.
us now about the readers. So now that the book is out, you've lived with Harry and Violet and these other characters, and kind of gone between worlds now. Um, have you found that, like with your other books, that people are connecting with certain characters, or is the Titanic? I'm curious, a bigger draw of the idea of the Titanic and another story that kind of brings us into that world.
Well, I think for me, I have, both readers who follow with me with every book, which I'm so grateful to have their readership over the decades. But then
Mhm.
I do feel that, I mean, the book did just come out yesterday, so we'll see. But the
Yeah,
early advance reception has been, I think people are really excited to learn about a real life person who was on the Titanic, who was
yeah,
a book lover, who not only perished with this rare book with him. But also, there's another book that was on the Titanic. It was a in jewel encrusted copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, and I feature that in the book too, and what happens with that, and how that plays into the plot. And so, these two books that are lost on the Titanic, I think for book lovers and people who love history and things that they didn't know before, this book is going to be exciting for them to get
yeah.
swept away and to learn something new.
Yeah. The Titanic is one of those things, and that's why I wanted to ask the question, Allison, because the Titanic is one of those things that, like, even when the book was pitched to me, of course, I wanted to talk to you anyway because I enjoy our conversations. But when I heard Titanic, I was it before I even knew anything about the plot. I was already excited because I'm one of those people who get excited. I'm one of those strange
Mm.
individuals who like to hear stories and and find out new things. And this book definitely delivers on that. Even as I mentioned, we're able to get your creativity, but also like I said, I'd never heard of Harry before, so that made me go to the College of Google and try to find out more.
Well, I
you know,
think you're hitting
more,
upon
more.
something important, which is the Titanic will always be eternally interesting to all of us. Approximately 1,500 souls perished that night. We know the drama. So many of us have seen the movie, so already there's sort of a media recognition with that.
Right.
But every person who perished had a story, right? And we're never going to
Yes.
know all of their
I
stories.
know. I
So
know.
highlighting for a book lover the story of someone who might have gone back for this rare book, to learn what that book was, to learn about the people in his book circle, like his Philadelphian book collector, seller Rosenbach, and that very close relationship he had with them, with Bernard Quaritch in London, who sold him the 16th century copy of Francis Bacon's essays that was so small it was the size of a baseball card. These type of details, I think, for book lovers to learn about them against the backdrop of this doomed ship is exciting. And also to learn about how did a young man of 27 years old become a book collector? What was his family's story? His
Yeah.
grandfather was a completely self-made man. He was a butcher who sold mutton to the Union Army, made his fortune, and then invested in transportation in the Philadelphia area with trolley cars, then invested in US Steel. So this sense of a self-made grandfather, this is American dream.
Right.
It's a good story.
I love it, and such a great conversation with you. Relate Extreme says great interview. Thank you so much for that. British Trillionaire, hello to you over there on Instagram as well. And again, appreciate you guys over on Amazon too. Again, everyone, we've been speaking with Alyson Richman today. Her new book is called The Missing Pages. It is out now. You can get it in print or the Kindle edition here. And while you're on Amazon, make sure you guys do check out some of the other books by Alyson as well. Alyson, thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it. How can our audience stay connected with you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram just at my name, Alyson, ALYSON RICHMAN. And I'm on Facebook under the same name. And I have a website, which is just my name, AlysonRichman.com.
Love it. Well, Alyson, thank you so much again for sharing part of your pub week with us, and looking forward to our next chat together.
Thank you so much, Cyrus. It was wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, you'll make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.